Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. Time for DC Spotlight for February 25th, 26th, I should say. I mean, 25th as we're recording, but the 26th when all the books drop. A pretty big week for DC this week. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 books. Never a big fan of when they release this many books, but it is what it is. So yeah, we'll be going through and talking about our top 5 books. Although I realized Rocky didn't necessarily tell me what his top 5 are, but that's fine. I know what my top 5 are. And then obviously you're going to head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel for our Indie Spotlight this week. That'll drop tomorrow, late tomorrow. Just had some day job stuff happen today, so we're recording a little later than usual. So we hope you're enjoying it. If you're listening to the audio only, don't forget you can head over to Rocky's YouTube channel, Comic Space Boom ! Once you're there, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. It's where this DC Spotlight comes out every week. You can see the art we're talking about. You can see our smiling faces. And then, yeah, don't forget, audio only. If you want to listen while you're working out or on the subway, driving a car, or whatever. And you can go back and listen to, thousands of past episodes of the Comic Source as well. Just do a search for the Comic Source on whatever podcasting app or platform you prefer. And then, yeah, like I said, all the other content, interviews, convention coverage, random stuff on the Comic Source YouTube channel. So overall, I thought it was an okay week. I didn't think anything like blew me away, but I didn't think anything was really awful as well. No rants this time. Nothing rant worthy. So, how'd you feel about the week overall, Rock?
Uh, I enjoy, well, I will have I'll have a couple rants. I could easily have a couple rants. Let's just say that I really enjoyed. I had mixed feelings about one, but despite my nitpickings on one, I had so much damn fun reading it that I'm going to be singing its praises, despite some nitpicks I have. But there was 5 easy, solid picks for me. I thought overall it was a decent week. There's some that were misses for me, but nothing really I thought was terrible, to be honest. Just the reality is some of these just aren't for me. But boy, oh boy, some of these I just really enjoyed.
Yeah, fair enough. So we'll kick it off with Power Girl number 18, written by Leah Williams. Gorgeous art by David Baldione. I've said before, when you're mixing superhero and humor, nobody does it better than David Baldione. Romulo Fajardo Jr. on colors, Becca Carey on letters. Comics Pro was out this last weekend. I wanted to get an episode out to talk about some of the news. I may still do that. But one of the things that happened during Comics Pro was the solicits were released for the next month of DC books. I think those are the books that are dropping in May. And there is no Power Girl and no Shazam. And there was one other book as well that was missing, and I can't think of what it is right now. But yeah, it seems that those books have been canceled. So we'll have to see. And that being said, we've talked a little bit about how DC maybe doesn't know what to do with Power Girl. They seem to be wanting to differentiate her from Supergirl. Don't know how well that's been working as far as these editorial decisions go. So we're not going to get into detail on the story of anything with Power Girl 18 because it's not in either of our top 5. But that being said, I think it is finding its footing and it's getting better. So, it's a little unfortunate that it kind of took this long, and apparently it's been canceled. I like Power Girl as a character. I like the David Baldione art. But yeah, maybe just took a little too long to find its footing. So
Yeah, I just want to make one comment.
Yep.
A character named Siggy that was from Wonder Woman's, from Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad's run shows up in here. There's some more male characters showing up in the comic, which I like. I thought the characterization has gotten better in this comic, and I like the fact that Power Girl has shown to be claustrophobic as a result of her symbiote ship experiences. That's played off well here, and her friendship with Natasha Irons and Omen, I think, has continued to develop reasonably well. And it's just unfortunate, just when it's finding its footing, that it's being canceled. If that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. It's starting to click, and now it's going away. So,
Yeah.
anyway, up next, Metamorpho, the Metamorpho, the Element Man, issue number 3 from writer Al Ewing, Steve Lieber on art, Lee Lowridge on colors, Farron Delgado on letters. This doesn't make my top 5, but man, is it a lot of fun. It really leans into kind of Bronze Age zaniness. So in another week where there maybe weren't so many strong books, this probably would have made my top 5, but it didn't make it this week.
Well, it
Anything
made
to add,
my
Russ?
top 5. It made my
Okay.
it came in at number 5 for me. And so this one's called The Man from Java. And what I like is writer Ewing continues to have fun with the genre here. It's he has some Silver Age fun. He continues to impress me, Ewing, with his use of just his humor. He's got like Silver Age humor in this, and all the voices in here. He manages to convey so much story, and you can he some of the dialogue, you would there's so much dialogue here. You'd think that if this was any other writer, I would think it would be overwrought with dialogue, but it works here in a way because you once again, Metamorphos, he's in a sense he's a one-hit wonder. He's got all this angst about, he's upset with his girlfriend, who he's broken up with her now because he's upset that she betrayed him. She's starstruck with him. His father-in-law is Simon Stagg, is kind of a douche, and in this issue we got Urania, who kind of is attracted to him. She takes Java on a secret mission to an abandoned Olmec temple where Vandal Savage has had a past relationship, or a past he knows Java because they were both cavemen back thousands of years ago, and it ultimately results in this huge confrontation in this Olmec temple at the end of the issue. And I think it works very well. The humor is really great. We learned something about Java. I particularly want to give a shout out to the art by Steve Lieber with great colors by Lee Loridge. There is one particular double page spread that I think is just, I had a lot of fun with. It's basically a maze inside the Olmec Temple itself. It shows Metamorpho, who sort of fancies himself, he creates for himself like an Indiana Jones fedora and look, and I'm a sucker for anything regarding Indiana Jones, and just the maze work and the work. It works really well, and I really got a sense of adventure reading this, and in a sense, this is almost a self-contained issue, because there's always there's a mission that every single issue deals with something different, and yet there is this overarching theme of Metamorpho, trying to find love in all the wrong places, and his dysfunctional relationship with his girlfriend, his father-in-law, his enemy / anti-hero to be Urania, and of course Java, whose loyalties are sometimes brought into question. And then of course we got Vandal Savage here, who ends up being a robot being used from afar from Commissioner Vandal Savage, who is still Commissioner of Gotham at the time that this story is written. So I thought it was very well done. It was a lot of fun to read and put a smile on my face. And yeah, it made my top 5. And it made me realize, and Creature Commandos is also, we reviewed that last week. I find myself maybe just longing for a Silver Age vibe, because these types of stories I'm starting to enjoy more and more. Maybe I'm just longing parts of me for my youth back in the my teenage life back in the 80s when I'd read older issues. But I've been quite enjoying it. So yeah, this was number 5 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it's Silver Age, because Silver Age gets like zany and like fantastical,
Bronze Age,
right? Yeah, Bronze Age for sure. Because yes, that's really was kind of the heyday of like sort of standalone issues, but you did have like subplots that went from issue to issue. So yeah, it feels like right out of like 1979 or 1980 or 81, like right in that era, and yeah, I mean that's what I love about it the most. And yeah, the word you used is the perfect word. It's just fun. It's just so fun. So yeah, it did miss out. But yeah, it was really tough for me. I mean, when I look at the things that ranked above it, I mean, really everything from about 4 to 9, like probably interchangeable. I ranked Metamorpho at number 8 for me. So, and this next book came in at number 7 for me. It's Justice League Unlimited number 4, written by Mark Waid, Dan Mora on art, Tamara Bonvillain on colors, Ariana Maher on letters. I am still enjoying this. It was great to see Batman track down Martian Manhunter and what we find out about him. Mr. Terrific keeps terrificing, just being an absolute jerk. It was great to see Alec Holland's daughter, Tefe Holland. Normally, I'm a huge sucker for Dan Moore art, but I will say that I thought the art here was a little muddled. It's like there's so much action going on that it's almost kind of hard to understand what's happening. So that's what brought it down for me, just a tad. I still really, really enjoyed it. But man, we know, I talked about it before. We have a Mr. Terrific series coming, and it's like I've been a fan of Mr. Terrific, but the way he's been acting in the Challenger series and the way he's acting here, it's like, man, maybe I don't like Mr. Terrific. Maybe I don't want a solo series for him. But anyway, this one just missed my top 5 at number 7.
I ranked this at number 3 for me. It's in my top 5. I love the return of the Dan Mora art. And I just love this story. And I love seeing Tefe Holland. It just another example, another issue where Mark Waid is, it just goes to show that he can take obscure characters or relatively new ones like Tefe Holland, daughter of Alec Holland, the original Swamp Thing, and work some magic with her. She's a reluctant hero. She doesn't want to get involved, but the Justice League is absolutely desperate in their battle, in basically saving the Amazon rainforest and dealing with this new threat that's arisen. And again, Tefe Holland working with Aquaman, Batman confronting Martian Manhunter, telling Martian Manhunter that everything's going to be okay because Martian Manhunter has lost some aspects of his powers, his telepathy, and you got great character moments, great dialogue. Batman shows how, makes clear to Martian Manhunter how important Martian Manhunter is as a member of the Justice League, and they're going to get through this together. He makes it clear to John Jones that he's a friend. He's a friend of the League. He's their constant. He's their North Star of strategies and values. And I really like that Mark Waid appreciates that. Just another example of how Mark Waid knows these characters, and he establishes that within the story, and it really works. Dan Mora's work is fantastic. The coloring is also. I'll give a shout out to Tamara Bonvillain. I mean, the coloring really is fantastic. It just pops off the page, whether it's Aquaman and Tefe Holland battling, trying to reinstate the green within the ocean, whether it's Flash going at super speed, rescuing as many as they can, along with John Constantine, Zatanna. You got the Blue Beetles, and of course at the end you got Dr. Occult, and you got a reminder at the end of this that we have a member of the team who is ultimately set to betray the team, and because the Justice League still doesn't know that Airwave is a secret agent of Inferno that is secretly, seeking to not only undermine the League, but apparently to destroy the Earth. So very well done. The plot thickens, it moves forward, and yeah, definitely, I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, I wonder if at this point Mark Waid knows what Airwave, how he's involved and what, you know what I mean? Because Mark told us the last time he was on. Well, first time he was on to talk about Justice League, he said, yeah, I'm going to do something with Airwave, but I don't know what yet. And then he came back and talked about the issue where we find out that Airwave didn't have a place to live. He was homeless, and he was like hiding out in like the ventilation system of the Justice League satellite and living there. That was his big secret. And he told us when he's talking about the issue, he's like, yeah, when I talked to you last time, when I had finished issue 1, I didn't know I was going to have him hiding out. So I wonder how far along he's gotten with the Airwave story. Like, does he know how Airwave betrays or why Airwave betrays or what have you? I mean, we know Mark Waid can do it well, right? Like he was pretty cagey and cheeky when he talked about Green Arrow, and how Green Arrow was like, what did he say? I don't know how somebody with Amanda Waller's resources, she has somebody that can read minds and whatever, how Green Arrow would be able to pull the wool over her eyes and be a double agent. And he was right. I mean, he made it make sense. So I wonder if it'll be something similar with Airwave. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah. All right. Up next, we have. I'm really curious. So the last 2 books haven't been in my top 5, but they've been in yours, Rocky. So this next one is actually the worst, ranked last for me. Something has to be last. It's not awful. It's not a terrible comic, but it just didn't do much for me. And it's Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween Prisoners, which is issue number 5. Jeff Loeb's the writer. Bill Sienkiewicz is the artist. Dave Stewart on colors. Richard Starkey on letters. the art. I mean, if you like Sienkiewicz art, you're gonna like this. It's definitely moody and kind of suits the feel of the book for sure. But it felt the reason I ranked it so low is it just felt a little bit like we're treading water in this story. Like I think back to the Long Halloween and how each of those issues felt so necessary to the overall story. And I just nothing in this issue that happened was it was a situation where I was like, wow, or I really needed to know that, or what. Like it almost feels like the most impactful or sort of the most memorable story beats of this issue are Jim Gordon and his dysfunctional marriage. But that that's even that is not new information. It's done well. It's portrayed well, and it's something we know of Gordon, in his early days or whatever. So it's not anything new, and it's done well, and I did enjoy it, and it was handled in a sensitive manner, and again, the art is suitable for the story and the subject matter. But yeah, it did. I was like, okay, it just felt like like an issue to just pad out to get up to whatever number of issues that DC wants. So I don't know, just kind of how I felt about it. I've been looking forward to this series, and this issue was a little bit of a letdown.
I actually agree with you. It never made my top five. I never ranked above five, to be honest. But yeah, it was okay. But I agree, it was kind of a filler issue. I always like seeing Bill Sienkiewicz's art. It's definitely it's so stylistic. It's so far it's the most. This definitely does not feel like Tim Sale's art. It has a decidedly different feel and look to it, which isn't surprising. Not every artist who's paying tribute to Tim Sale is going to be able to. I don't expect them to duplicate Tim Sale's art exactly, but this one did feel the most divergent from that so far. And but still, it was okay, and it's still keeping with the general theme of focusing on almost like a different Batman villain every issue. And this one ends suggesting that the next focus will be Two-Face, so it's still keeping with the general theme. But focusing large, this issue focuses mostly on the Joker himself, but again, not really conveying any much in terms of story substance, really moving the matter forward. But it's still, it's this is one of those things it's going to make so much money as a trade. It's going to make money hand over fist. But for now, I agree, it's treading water this month.
Yeah, it just didn't too much for me. So anyway, let's move on. This next one was definitely an improvement on the previous. I feel like it's going somewhere. That being said, it's still only ranked 13 for me. So it's Green Lantern Dark, issue number 3, which is interesting that it's issue number 3, but it's New Camelot Part 2. I don't know how long this is supposed to go, but it's written by Tate Brombal. Art is by Werther Del Edra, Giovanni Nero on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. And yeah, I just thought it was okay. I do feel like we kind of got some characterization and some forward momentum in the story finally. But I think the biggest thing for me is I'm just not a big fan of Werther Del Adera's art style. That's a personal thing for me, and so it does, unfortunately it affects my enjoyment of the story. And I feel like the story hasn't necessarily been strong enough to overcome that. We sort of got there with this issue, but again, it's still feel like we don't know that much about the Green Lantern Dark. The characterization starting to get better and what have you, but yeah, for me, only okay. And I mean, a fourth issue has been solicited, but I don't know if it goes beyond that or not. So anyway, anything to add, Rocky?
Yeah, it's interesting because Della Huerta's art, I absolutely love it on Something is Killing the Children. But there's a lot of violence in Something is Killing the Children. And the art excels at that in Something is Killing the Children. And the moon, the tone set is just, it's so perfectly suited for that. I find here with the I don't. This doesn't feel at all in any way, shape, or form like a Green Lantern comic. Now I realize, of course, this from a practical perspective, this really is not a Green Lantern comic. Green Lantern Dark was never a Green Lantern comic, despite what was it? This is a tangent universe character. It never had much appeal to me. I also find that. What doesn't appeal to me is the darkness of this universe. It literally it's so dark. I mean, the irony is that, I mean, the absolute universe, ironically enough, is ending up being, it turns out that it's not as dark as I was hoping it would be, to be quite blunt, the absolute universe for DC. But the stories are decent enough, and with Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, there's a darker tone to that. But this is like a really, really, really dark. This puts the absolute Dark Side universe to shame, how dark this story actually is. And then the villain here, Demona, is kind of like not particularly compelling, and the lead character I find unlikable, and the villain I find silly. So this is just missing on all cylinders for me. But Tate Brombal, I makes up for it with Batgirl. I've been enjoying that. So at least I can say that I'm really enjoying Batgirl.
All right, on to more positive. I think this will probably make both our top 5. We've loved every issue. This issue is no exception. Little Batman Month 1, issue number 4. Writer Morgan Evans, John Mikel on art, Ian Herring on colors, Lucas Catoni on letters. Even as I'm just reading off the credits, I'm laughing, I'm smiling. This book is so much fun. It is so much fun. Like I sort of wish that I had like I don't know, like a 5, 6, or 7-year-old little boy that I could read this with and read it to him as a bedtime story or what have you, because it's just so fun. And I think Timothy Business may be one of my new all-time favorite DC characters, which is Damian Wayne's alter ego. Sort of like Bruce Wayne or Batman has Matches Malone. Well, Damian has Timothy Business when he's going to go undercover. The art, it's obviously very stylized, very sort of an animated or cartoon kind of style. Damian is fun. He it's played for laughs. He's a kid. He's juvenile. He's young. He's inexperienced. That's okay. That's how he's supposed to come across. Again, it's so fun. I mean, things like Damian's hair. He's got like a big bouffant hairdo, and Bruce has a beard and a giant, like chin, like straight out of the Tick. There's plenty of sight gags. There's puns. It's just so much fun. It's just so much fun. Like this, so often creators will talk about, one of the things they love about Batman is he's such a versatile character. You can tell, any kind of story with him. You can go horror, you can go detective, you can go kind of sci-fi or traditional superhero. Like this is taking that sort of to the nth degree when you see that you can tell children's stories basically with Batman as well, and it works. Like Batman, he can tend to be a dark character, very brooding. You can tell stories to deal with trauma and what have you, or be really scary. And so they might not be as well suited for young children. But this book, and I think Batman, Robin, and Howard also does a great job of this. It really shows that you can tell stories for young kids with Batman, and it doesn't have to be over the top violence or anything scary, or it can just be fun. And the series has been fun throughout. Just absolutely loved it. I think it'll sell really well in trade as well. And I'd highly encourage you. I mean, Christmas is not coming up, but Easter's coming up, so maybe the Easter Bunny can leave Little Batman Month 1 in some Easter baskets for some kids. So, what do you think of it, Rocky?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to what you're saying. It's just such a fun series. It really is. Now, honestly, it didn't make my top 5, but it could have. I mean, it was fun. Yeah, yeah, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. There was laugh out loud moments. I have to admit, I never saw it coming that Marion, the character Marion, the glorified babysitter, ended up being Lynx, ended up being a supervillain Lynx, working in conjunction with the Penguin and Scarecrow with the fear toxin, and that threw me. And I thought it was I actually liked the design of the costume design too by the artist, John Mikel. But yeah, you said it, just very well done, and humor, funny, and this is something where I would. This deserves more. I'm surprised it doesn't go. It's chapter 4. Is this the final issue?
Yeah, final issue.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it doesn't go 6 issues, because I think if it as a trade, I would think they'd want 6 issues. But in any event, it's good.
Well, I mean, for younger readers, maybe something a little shorter is not the worst idea. And based on everything I've heard about the sales for this book, I would expect we're going to see more, especially because that's one of the things that DC announced at their the Comics Pro presentation with some more books aimed at younger readers. I mean, they've been doing a great job with the YA stuff, like preteen, up through teen. Think about like Cami Garcia's Teen Titans books and what have you, and they're aimed at kind of those middle school readers. They're going to be coming out with stuff that's aimed at a little lower, like first, second, third, fourth grade. And this is right in that wheelhouse. Now, don't get me wrong, neither Rocky nor I are in the fourth grade, but that shows just how fun this is, that we could enjoy it as well, because it was a blast. So I fully expect there to be, I don't know, they could call it month 2, with the same creative team, and I could definitely see it coming back. All right, let's move on. We've got Flash number 18, written by Simon Spurrier. Art is by Vasco Gregev. Colors by Matt Herms. Letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. One of the better issues of Flash. It's number 9 for me out of 14. That's definitely progress. I particularly like the character work that Simon Spurrier is doing for Jay. But there's still there's still, I don't want to say scientific gobbledygook. I don't want to go that far, because I like the ideas. I like the puppy. We're getting the thoughts of the puppy. I like the whole idea of what happened to Eclipso, and why he's super happy now all of a sudden. Like, there's a lot to like in this issue, and the like, honestly, there are other weeks that maybe weren't as strong where this actually could have made my top 5. And this might be my favorite issue of the series so far. I'm pretty sure that it is. Part of that due to the fact that we get to know the puppy's thoughts. So yeah, this is definitely heading in the right direction. But I can't just sweep everything that's happened up to this point under the rug. And that does sort of pull it back a little bit. Like, as great as this is and as fun as it is, and the ideas are just fantastic. Like, I keep going back to what he did with Eclipso, what he's doing with Jay, what he's doing with the puppy. But I can't just give this book to somebody without them. Like, I couldn't sit down and explain to them what's happened in this series so far, right? And I also wouldn't want to subject somebody, hey, go and read the first whatever 17 issues, because that's kind of torturous as well. So yeah, that's what kind of holds it back. But all that being said, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Like, I wish he could keep kind of the tone and feel, or I wish the tone and feel that we're getting here was a tone and feel that we've had throughout. So, but I do find it interesting that since that first 12 issue story arc with the stillness and whatever, since that ended, it has been trending back up. I've talked many times about how it started like 8.9 with issue 1, and it just goes down, 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 down. Every issue it goes down. It's worse than the issue before, all the way until we get to a rating of 6 with number 12. And then 13 is a 7.6, 14 is 9.3, 15 is an 8, 16 is an 8, 17 is an 8.4. I would expect this 18 to probably be above 8.4. So it's definitely trending in the right direction. I know it probably doesn't make your top 5, Rocky, but anything to add?
Yeah. Well, I read this. I had to read this 3 times, and I will say that I really don't enjoy reading this series. I just don't enjoy reading it. It is the least maybe pretentious out of the previous 17 issues, possibly. That's my way of saying it's the best one, and I don't mean that as a compliment. Jay's. You're right that there's character work for Jay here, but I often don't know what he's saying. He's referencing things I don't know how he could possibly know it. He shouldn't be an Einstein, and yet he seems to have a genius level intellect. I don't know why if the dog is the Speed Force and is all knowing, the dog is the embodiment of the birth of the child of the Speed Force got pregnant and gave birth, and whatever the Speed Force gave birth to is now in the dog. But for some reason, even though the Speed Force is obviously very smart, it only knows how to speak in a dog language and think in a dog language, but yet seems to know so much about Jay's future that even Jay doesn't know. Again, this stuff just doesn't, it's not really consistent. Eclipso wants to, there's some clarity there. I think Eclipso wants to utilize Wally's abilities. Eclipso wants to create a new type of emotional hatred or absorb the hatred, the emotional hatred on Earth. And because Wally has the unique ability as a Flash to absorb unique energies, that's kind of why he wanted to go to Skataris with Warlord and utilize the magic along with the Weather Wizard to try to orchestrate some magical device that will, which in combination with Wally West could help him absorb all these emotional energies. I think there's that. And if I'm wrong in what I just said, I fall upon my sword. And okay, but again, I guess it's not. It's a little bit better. It's I will give props to Is Spurrier for taking Eclipso out of the DC All In Special and trying to do something with him. A fallout from that, I appreciate that. Trying to work within continuity, and it's better than some writers are doing, quite frankly. And so I want to give him some props for that. And it is, there is a little bit better in terms of. Like I said, trying to get a little bit more of a handle. I'm still confused and baffled by why there's two Flashes. That still doesn't make any sense to me. Why you need two Flashes, but again, not better than what's come before. But I'm still not going to be handing out accolades on this.
Yeah, I mean, you almost had it. So Eclipso's not harvesting hate or negative emotions from the surface world or from Skataris. That's his negative emotion. So he, after the events of DC All In, he and it's a little cheesy, but he discovered like sort of the power of happiness and contentment. And he's like, why be angry and pissed off all the time when you can be happy and fully contented? And so that's what he's doing. He's using the magics of Skataris to make himself like super happy. The problem is he has so much hatred, built up in him. And this is what he talks to the Spectre about, the idea of vengeance and what have you. Oh. That if he he has, there's so much and he's constantly generating more, but he's pulling it out of him and storing it. But it's affecting Skataris. That's why he went to Skataris. So he's kind of spreading that out, diffusing it amongst Skataris. Because if he lets it just build up, it's going to explode. And the sort of the intonation is it's going to like destroy reality. So it's very selfish, right? Like he's taking happiness away from other people so he can feel really happy. And Flash even mentioned something about that. He's like, he mentions Immanuel Kant, who's I think he was a 19th century philosopher who said whatever the kind of the situation, world, society, whatever that makes the most people happy, that's what we should strive for. So, it's the whole idea of the good of the many outweighs the good of the few, right? So, but and Eclipso's like telling Wally, hey, you can be really happy. I can be really happy. We don't have to worry about anybody else being happy. And Wally knows that's wrong, but at the same time, he's so happy that it's kind of like you only care about yourself sort of thing. So that's what I find to be so interesting, because Eclipso's usually like so evil and so full of negative emotion. And now he's like swung back. He's so happy that he's like happily evil, right? Like he's so happy that it's like the pendulum swung the other way to where he's happy, and you think that would be a good thing, but he's too happy. He's so happy that he's got to figure out a way to deal with his negative emotions. So yeah, again, interesting idea, but with all the baggage and everything that comes along with it, it's hard to. I
wish I got that out of it. I read it 3 times and I just never got that sense out of it.
Yeah, you got to read the conversation between Flash and Wally, or between Flash and Eclipso, where he first shows him that big black ball, and talks about it when he says, "Say, why'd you really bring me here, Eclipso?" And Eclipso says, "Hatred. Like I said, anger's easy, but all the hate drawn out of me every day had to go somewhere before that thing pops." And then he goes in and he starts talking about it. So yeah, that little ball of hatred is, he said, the hate drawn out of me every day has to go somewhere. So, I mean, the guy's got so much hate that it's like building up, and that's why he needs Flash to, like you said, the way Flash can deal with exotic energies. That's why he needs Flash to figure out a way to disperse that hatred, because he wants to stay happy, which is so interesting. Definitely a different characterization, different direction for Eclipso than we've ever seen before. So And anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Green Lantern number 20. This is in my top 3, written by Jeremy Adams, gorgeous art by Jack Herbert, Romulo Fajardo Jr. on colors, letters by Dave Sharp. Gorgeous art by Jack Herbert. I mean, the art is phenomenal. I love Jack Herbert's art. I wish he would do more work. I don't know why DC doesn't give him more work. I see him doing work for like other independent companies and what have you, that like companies that like Ripaverse and whatever. And, they're not big names. Like I feel like you if DC you're known for getting great artists, like give this guy steady work. But anyway, this is just a ton of fun. Definitely, like I said, in my top 3. We have it's kind of split in 2 halves. We see Arestus the blacksmith is who it starts off with. He is on a planet, and he is overcome with rage, and you can completely understand why when you see the way he's treated by his domestic partner, by people he works with, by just other citizens in general. Like they really mistreat this guy, and he finally gets fed up, and he kind of loses it, and apparently kills everybody on the planet. So he has a knockdown, drag out fight with Hal Jordan. Again, it's beautifully illustrated. Jordan's trying to reach him, and it seems that Arestus explodes. The rage consumes him so much that he explodes, and all that's left is his blacksmith hammer. But I have a feeling that maybe we haven't seen the last of him yet. We know that based on what we saw in the Green Lantern Corps with Sinestro, Sinestro's idea is that, hey, anybody who is able to channel any of the emotional spectrums is maybe skillful enough or somehow connected enough to the energies of the emotional spectrum to wield a Green Lantern ring. So, is that where we may see Arestus? We'll have to see. And the second half of the issue is like almost this Indiana Jones adventure with Kyle Rayner and Connor Kent and Odyssey, this time-traveling thief. They go into a construct on the source wall, which is a really cool idea, right? Like a source wall supposedly is all these gods that touched the source wall and became frozen and stuck in time and a part of it. But there's actually an artificial construct that's built to look like it's part of the source wall, but really it's kind of like this hidden Indiana Jones like temple. Certainly what Jeremy Adams leads into. There's all these booby traps and everything, and they're going in there. These 3 characters are going in there to retrieve a sphere, an orb that is needed to rebuild power batteries, so they can hopefully rebuild a power battery for the green spectrum. So it's a lot of fun. These characters, we don't get enough Kyle Rayner for in the minds of a lot of people. For a lot of people that grew up in the 90s, Kyle Rayner is their Green Lantern. Plus the dynamic between Odyssey and Connor Kent. Clearly they're attracted to each other, and they have a crush on each other, and a mutual physical attraction there. So there should be something interesting coming there. But what's great ends on a patented Jeremy Adams cliffhanger here, when these 3 characters manage to retrieve the orb and come out and talk about how tough it was to go and retrieve the orb. We see what's his name, Starbreaker, is there with Sorrow, and he's like, hey, basically, thanks for doing all the hard work. We'll go ahead and take that orb from you now. And so it's being teased that we're going to get a big battle next issue with Starbreaker and Sorrow versus Superboy and Kyle. So we'll see how that plays out. But great issue. Life and Death of Erastus the Blacksmith is the name of the issue. And just fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Zermanico's art, but if he ever leaves this book as the regular artist, I really would love to see Jack Herbert on it. I mean, really any regular monthly DC book that DC could put Jack Herbert on, I'm gonna enjoy it probably. I just love his art. I love his art so much. But yeah, he's specifically great on Green Lantern because I think he does cosmic stuff really, really well. So anyway, is this in your top 5 also?
No, it's not. But I will say that what I find tragic about the tale of Erasmus is this is potentially a game changer here, because Erasmus died because of his own anger. He got so angry that rather than channel the emotions and making himself more powerful, channeling that particular emotion, it actually caused him to explode. He literally exploded in anger, killing himself, and that's not what I would expect if one was to show great anger. One would expect you'd be a prime candidate for a Red Lantern ring, or you'd be a prime candidate to have some connection to the emotional spectrum, i.e., anger. But yet, so to me, this throws a wrinkle into the rules here. I mean, literally, could you have too much anger, too much sadness? Could you die from too much sadness? Can you explode from too much anger? Can you explode from too much fear? I mean, it almost makes you wonder, can you die from too much of a particular emotion now if you're infected with this? And so it shows just how important willpower is. Erasmus did not have the willpower to keep his anger in check, and it killed him. So you got to wonder, for guys like Sorrow, for example, if you don't have the willpower to keep your sorrow in check, or willpower to keep for others your fear in check, is it something that could ultimately lead to your death? And it's just something to think about. I thought that was really cool. I agree with your other comments about the. I love Odyssey. I love Connor Kent. I love Indiana Jones again with Kyle Rayner's Indiana Jones exploring the source wall there, it's great stuff. It was a really good issue.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that as far as sorrow goes, that he's feeling that sorrow intensely, and it's actually causing him pain. We know that. I sort of don't think people could necessarily explode from feeling an emotion. I think, specifically for anger or rage, I mean, that's sort of inherent in the feeling, right? They say, oh, he was exploding with anger. So I sort of feel like if you're overcome with fear, then it would be debilitating, right? Like maybe you're curled up in a little ball and you can't move. Sorrow, you're in so much pain. I mean, we have heard of people, dying of a broken heart, whatever. You certainly hear when it's elderly people and, they've been together married for 70 years, and then one passes away, the other one, will pass away shortly after, or what have you. You get so used to being around somebody. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that they would all explode like Erastus did, but I don't think he's gone. Like I said, I don't think he's like, he could have just exploded with the energy, but he's going to manage to bring his body back together. I mean, that would show a lot of willpower and control. So, I mean, I don't know. He's such like it. It's sort of a cliche in a way. Like Jeremy spent so much time fleshing him out, and he's well designed. He's shown up in 2 issues. He was teased, I think, in the first issue of Green Lantern Corps. So to put that much effort into a character that you're just going to have explode and he's not going to come back.
Well, it is called The Tragic Tale of Erasmus. So
the life and death of Erastus. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that doesn't mean that there won't be another issue. The return of Erastus, like 100%. All right, up next, not in either of our top 5, and it was a fine issue for what it is. It's Harley Quinn number 48. Elliot Kalin is the writer, Mindy Lee on art, Triona Farrell on colors, Lucas Catoni on letters. What I will say is Elliot Kalin's Harley Quinn, you know what you're going to get. It's been very consistent. They're almost standalone stories. It's not sort of that up and down that we've had with the last couple of runs. So at least people know what to expect. If you like it, you're going to continue to like it. If it's not for you, just move on, pick up something else. All right, up next, Black Canary, the best of the best, issue number 4. Tom King as writer, Ryan Sook as artist, Dave Stewart on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. This one, for me, makes my top 3. And we finally, for those Black Canary fans that have been waiting for her to sort of turn the tide in the fight, she kicks the crap out of Lady Shiva in this issue, and I'm here for it. So, anyway, what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Well, this was my I put it number 1 for me, and I gotta say, I just want to get set up here. I gotta say that there's one nitpick. First of all, it's fantastic seeing Black Canary kick some ass to kick Lady Shiva's ass, because Black Canary lost the first 3 rounds, and we remember that Black Canary was once Vandal Savage made a deal with her. She's supposed to lose the fight in round 6 against Lady Shiva, and then in return, Vandal Savage will give some cancer treatment to her mother who's dying of cancer. But this is round 4, and so round 3 of Lady Shiva basically beat the hell out of her and beat the hell out of Wildcat. And so this is her Black Canary just kicking ass. Now, the fight scenes in this issue are just fantastic. And she's just she just brutalizes Lady Shiva, and Ryan Sook does just such a fantastic job here, such a fantastic, entertaining job here. And what what uh, uh, what works, and I'm going back and forth here between being frustrated and yet completely redeemed because I love this issue so much. Is it's juxtaposed in between scenes in the past when Dinah first meets Oliver Queen, and just very well done. How when she first meets Oliver Queen, Oliver's insulted. Wildcat, how can you're gonna have this woman train me from some daughter of a washed up former Justice Society member, Black Canary? Are you kidding? And so right away he makes a bad impression on Dinah, and it's just for fans of Black Canary and Green Arrow, this is a must issue because of this past issue. I think Tom King does a really good job here about the early relationship between how Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance met. I thought this was very well done. It's excellent. And when that's juxtaposed against the fight scene that in round 4, it's so well. And what I really like about it is what's been established so far in the previous 3 issues is that nobody believes Black Canary can defeat Lady Shiva. Nobody can. Even I don't believe it. But there is such a thing, as I've always believed, that on any given Sunday, any football team can win a football game. You take the top 10 fighters, anybody in the top 10, as far as I'm concerned, can be number 1 at any given time, given the right circumstances and motivation. And in this case, it's Black Canary's turn to shine, and it works super well. And I love the fact that Black Canary's mother, Dinah's mother, believes in her, saying, I know you can win. I believe in you. I want you to believe that you can beat Lady Shiva. You're better than you think you are, Dinah. And I love that mother-daughter relationship. And her mother is right. Her mother is right. She can. The right timing, the right training, the right conditioning, you can beat even Lady Shiva. And that's something that is done here, but because Dinah can't win this fight, you gotta watch it, Lady Shiva's about to surrender, but that doesn't occur because Dinah won't let Lady Shiva surrender. And so it's a very powerful moment, an uplifting moment for Dinah, for Black Canary. She does an amazing job here. This is Black Canary's victory over Lady Shiva, even though, regardless of how this series ends, this is a pivotal moment for her as a character building, and the juxtaposition between the past, the character building, bringing to this moment at the end of this issue was so well done. I love Ryan Sook. I love his art. It's so fantastic. I am completely spoiled. I will never be able to watch Black Canary fight anyone again, especially Lady Shiva, without I'll demand his art from this day forward. Just fantastic. The character moments between Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance, even at the end when she asks him to be her boyfriend, just really great moments between her mother and her as they go out for drinks in the middle of her training. But even when they're at a bar, there's the training of Dinah Lance still continues. And just so many great moments. Tom King's done a good job here. Now, I do have one nitpick, and I'm not even going to harp on it. Lady Shiva would never surrender under any circumstances. This is a character that had a death wish, and she would happily die before losing. So she would never surrender. That's a nitpick. It's probably a bit more than a nitpick, but I'm letting it go because I enjoyed this issue so damn much. I've been enjoying this series more than I have a right to. And Ryan Sook's art's so fantastic. This is a high recommend, easily my favorite of the week. What about your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I'm surprised you spoiled what your pick was, but I mean that's fine. People can wonder what my pick is. Am I going to have the same pick?
This is my rant.
We'll see. Yeah. I sort of agree with you about Shiva. She doesn't seem the kind to surrender, but at the same time, I mean, like you said, any given Sunday. But there might be more going on than we know. I mean, we saw Black Canary meet with Vandal Savage and what have you. So maybe Shiva's in on it as well. But it certainly seems like the announcers are like, she was interrupted before she could get it out. What happened? She was about to concede. Never seen anything like it. What a mistake by Black Canary, whatever. And Black Canary's got a smirk on her face. Like, I don't think she wanted the fight to be over, and maybe she's bet money, has to go down a certain round, that sort of thing. Maybe she was in on it. Maybe that's why it seemed like she was going to surrender. Like, we don't know for sure. But I mean, I do agree, like I said with you, that on any given in any given match, based on circumstances or what have you, that if you're among the top fighters, that you could win. Um, what I didn't like, the only thing that I haven't liked in this series so far, and again, maybe it's just a sort of an aspect of the personality of one of the announcers, when he goes along with saying, he's sort of saying what we're saying, on any given Sunday or a given fight, one fighter can beat another if they have luck on their side. Like he's contributing the fact that Black Canary has turned the tide in this round to luck. Like I don't know how you can, any self-respecting announcer, and maybe he's just covering his ass because he's the one that said
Yeah.
that Shiva was going to dominate and whatever. Where does the luck come in? It's not like a bird came and flew into Lady Shiva's eye, or she tripped and twisted her. You know what I mean? Like, if she is losing because she's physically losing the fight, it's because Black Canary has found a way to dominate her in some way. So I don't know, that bugged me. That I was like, luck, what are you talking about, man? Absolutely ridiculous. But I agree with you about the art. I mean, Ryan Sook's art is just unreal. I don't know if you'll be able to see this in our if you're watching us on YouTube or what have you, but go to the last page, Rocky, where Black Canary punches Shiva to keep her from, supposedly she was going to say I surrender or whatever. I want to point out the detail. So if you look at Black Canary, like her inner arm of the arm where she's punching Shiva, you can actually see veins standing out there in her elbow joint.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
that
amazing.
that attention to detail is what makes Ryan Sook so amazing. He's fantastic. And at the end of the day, if you could ever believe that Black Canary could beat Lady Shiva in a fight, it is because her mother relentlessly trained her, relentless. And Tom King has done a fantastic job of capturing that. But yet he still tempers that with enough emotional moments. There's love there. Like, she's doing this out of love, especially in this current situation where Dinah knows that her daughter is going to be fighting Lady Shiva, and she knows she has cancer and she doesn't have long. It's like, this is my last legacy. This is the last thing I can do for you as a mother, is, train you to the utmost of your ability so that you can defeat Lady Shiva. And, despite the sort of tough love that she shows, it is still love. And there are those emotional moments. So that's really well done from Tom King as well. All right. Up next, we have Superman number 23. This just misses my top 5 with its rank at number 6. Written by Joshua Williamson, art by Dan Mora, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, letters by Ariana Mayer. It's going to seem like I don't like Dan Mora this week. But this was similar to what I was saying about the Justice League book, in that the first half of the book, it's a little, like, the art is so busy, it's a little hard to understand what's going on. Like, there's a double page spread where a bunch of the different super family are fighting against this alien invasion or what have you. And it's very busy. But that being said, I do really enjoy this. The fact that, Lex Luthor came up with this idea to trap Doomsday along with the aliens in and Radiant, the leader of the aliens, in sort of a bottle like Brainiac would. It seems like a good idea, but at the same time, you can understand why Lois and Superman would be so worried about it, because it could be a situation where it's a ticking time bomb. And so, I guess we'll see how that all plays out. This whole storyline has been a little bit of setup. It's good setup. We've talked before about a brilliant idea to have Doomsday be the time trapper. Also, we can understand why Silver Banshee is so upset, because Jimmy got hurt and she's declared herself the arch enemy of Superwoman. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack in this issue, but it does seem like we're not getting sort of concrete answers or resolutions for a lot of this stuff. Certainly not the the Doomsday time trapper stuff, or the stuff with the Doomsday trapped in that bottle, or Radiant and his army trapped in that bottle either. But it's because we're moving on to maybe we could say more interesting things, we get our second look at the Legion of Superheroes from the Absolute Universe here. Specifically, we see Lightning Lad, Cosmic Boy, and Saturn Girl. I mean, I don't know if that's their name. It could be Lightning Man, Cosmic Man, and Saturn Woman, because they do look a bit older. But their costumes are a little reminiscent of Darkseid, where they look like they're made out of rocks in some way, and they just look foreboding. They look
Oh yes,
dangerous.
the Dark
Uh,
Legion, man, the
yeah,
Dark Legion. Whew,
yeah, and
awesome.
it just has me excited. Don't get me wrong, I still hope that Williamson comes back and wraps up these threads that he's left dangling to some extent. Um, but teasing more to come with the Absolute Universe and this evil Legion, yeah, that's fun too. So, but for those little minor nitpicks that I said, the art was a little muddy at times, and it didn't wrap everything up or anything up really, other than sort of temporarily stop Radiant and his army and Doomsday. I say temporarily because it's comics, that that problem is not completely solved. And so for that reason, it just missed my top five. But what are your thoughts on it, Rocky? Where does this rank?
Yeah, this it was in my top five for sure, because it's because I just loved how it culminated with teasing the Dark Legion, and you talked about that. I loved how Doomsday as the time trapper was so confident that he had time all wrapped up. He knew exactly what Superman was going to do, exactly what Superwoman was going to do, but he didn't factor in Lex Luthor, which is always interesting. Lex Luthor is always a fly in the ointment, and it's nice to see Lex Luthor here come back in all his glory and actually, of all things, a relatively simple solution, but the one that is perhaps inspired, and that is, shrink them. Kryptonians, the Bottle City of Kandor, Bottle City can house Kryptonians. Why can't it house Doomsday? It can house Doomsday. It can also hold the Radiant and the Radiant Army. And that's exactly what Lex Luthor does. The art here is just fantastic. I love it. Lois's Superwoman is really growing on me. She's getting hotter every time I see her. This is really good stuff. Jimmy's injuries, Silver Banshee being extremely upset, maybe going back to her, understandably a little pissed off, maybe at Superwoman, showing a little bit of her supervillain past, rearing its ugly head. Lord Zod makes an appearance, General Zod. He's going to be traveling to Earth. He was on his prison ship there, that we knew he was on from the end of his Kneel Before Zod series, written by Joe Casey, and he's keeping it under wraps. One of the General Zod's minions confirms to him that he's lost his powers, and General Zod kills his minion because he wants to keep it a secret, and he's going to obviously be traveling to Earth, presumably at some point, to get to the bottom of, try to find out, get his powers back. Very well done. There's a lot of moving parts here, but I think it worked very well. I actually, of all, Joshua Williamson has done a really good job here. I really like this story. It's exciting. It's built. I thought it was easy to follow. I love the character work. I love the art, and I love the tease for what's coming this summer with the Dark Legion. I mean, my God, how finally, I mean, Doomsday is the time trapper. How much more powerful can you be? Well, you got the Dark Legion, and imagine how powerful the Dark Legion is when it makes Doomsday as the time trapper shiver. He was scared. He looked afraid of Saturn Girl, of the Dark Legion. Wow, this is good stuff, and it's whetted my appetite for what we can expect this summer. Oh, sorry, you're on mute, my friend.
Yep, I just realized that as soon as I started to say, yeah, Summer of Superman coming. In addition to the James Gunn movie, we're going to have some fantastic Superman events. So definitely looking forward to that. All right, up next, also in my top five, what a fantastic issue. Detective Comics 1094 from Tom Taylor, Mikel Janin on art and colors. Wes Abbott handles the letters. Give us your thoughts on this one, Rocky.
This was also in my top five. I quite enjoyed it. I just loved it. I really like this character of Scarlett Scott. And is Scarlett Scott? Is she the daughter of Joe Chill, the murderer of Thomas and Martha Wayne? Not really sure. Is she? what's her relationship with Warden Slattery, who Batman sends Damian undercover in this sort of juvenile prison in order to try to find as much information on the relationship between any communications between Scarlet Scott and Warden Slattery. There is. We also know that there's this. Bruce Wayne has been given a drug that has given him, made him more, made him feel younger, given him more energy, give him more, arguably make him feel more powerful than he's ever have before. There's suggestions that maybe Scarlet Scott has taken some of this, that she's maybe got some abilities. There's some mystery about her past, and everything, what's so great here is that the Mikel Janin's art is just, he's actually gotten better, I think, because I would have because Mikel Janin, often his art, he doesn't, it's less static than it is. He's getting a little bit better at conveying more motion and more movement, because a lot of times it just, there's an improvement in his art in this series. This is probably arguably some of the best Mikel Janin art I've seen to date, because often he's just drawing, there seems to be more backgrounds in a lot of the work that he's doing here, more facial expressions. Very well done. And I love how Bruce Wayne's he illustrates the facial expressions on Bruce Wayne, his contempt for Warden Slattery, as he knows Damian's going undercover, his confidence that he has in Damian, and it's just there's even Harvey Bullock's actions here. There's hints that there's more kids are going to be more kids are going to fall victim, and I even like Damian, the mature way in which Damian deals with matters in the prison, and in a very sensible way. He doesn't want to leave the prison, but Batman says to him, "Look, you have to. We have a plan. We gotta follow through with it." And then at the end, there he gets a letter from this Asima character. And who is Asima? Is Asima really Scarlet Scott? If it's not Scarlet Scott, who is it? I really like what Tom Taylor is doing here. I know from reading future solicits, and I'm not spoiling anything, that there's definitely going to be a big revelation about Batman's past here. And what is that revelation going to be? Because we've already got a pretty big revelation with Scarlet Scott possibly being the daughter of Joe Chill. What could that big revelation be? So might be some misdirection going on here, but I quite enjoyed this issue. What about your thoughts? What about yourself?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a question. I think she definitely is the daughter of Joe Chill.
Yeah.
What she might have to do with what's going on with the formula Bruce is taking that sort of turned back the clock. Yeah, we'll see. But I agree with you that this might be some of the best art that Mikel Janin has done. It's interesting because he's handling the colors as well. And there have been some issues on this run where I feel like him coloring himself hasn't really elevated his art, but on this particular issue, it has for sure. So I don't know if it's just him trying, different things and finding out what really works, but he's clicking on all cylinders here. His art's never looked better. I think he's always done a fantastic job with character acting, action, emotion in the faces, and what have you. But yeah, he's really raised it to another level. But you credit the story that Tom Taylor is telling here. We know that Tom Taylor can certainly bring the feels when it comes to a story. So with Damian going undercover, we're talking about juvenile kids. So I guess, I've heard some, I can't remember who it was recently. I saw somebody was telling me that they didn't like it when somebody in a comic or a film endangers a kid. I think it's kind of done, of course you're going to pull out the heartstrings if you're endangering a kid or what have you. And they didn't care for that. So, it is, in a way, it's low hanging fruit. But Damian acts the way that we'd expect him to act. I love that Bruce, backs him up on that. So that's fantastic. But it brings in another aspect of this story. It feels like there's a lot packed into this issue. There's been at least one issue of Tom Taylor and Mikel Janin's detective run where it felt like I blinked and it was over. Like it was 3 pages long. Hardly anything happened. But this one, we get some fantastic scenes of Batman kind of willing himself to stay conscious and to help the kid that was injured last issue. And then we get the the plan of Damien going undercover, and then we get the scene of Bruce in the warden's office with Warren Slarty that you mentioned, and then we get the scene with Damien basically refusing to let a guard beat on a helpless child. So there's a lot that happens in this issue, and it felt like there was we got a big chunk of story basically. So curious to see where it goes next. Curious to find out what the connection is. It is kind of what I expected and talked about previously, where it definitely seems like they're harvesting the blood of these young criminals and using that blood in some way to create the formula that Bruce is one of the people that's taking it. But that last scene that you mentioned with Asima leaving a note taped to Wayne, the gates of Wayne Manor, that's very telling. First of all, does that mean that she knows? I mean, she's trying to get a message to Batman. Does she know that Bruce Wayne and Batman are one and the same? And what could it be? Like, my first instinct was, because based on the note and what it says on the outside of the envelope, the truth you need to know. Like, okay, so maybe she's going to say, yes, these criminals were, having their blood harvested or whatever. They're sort of the victims. And so I'm like, okay, she's going to expose that. Maybe she's not the bad guy. But then I was like, well, wait a second. She's killing these young criminals. Like, she's killed them. Yeah. So she's definitely the bad guy, but maybe, I don't know, maybe she's deranged. Maybe she's, mentally ill or something. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
but I'm intrigued.
We do know that Asima took some of Batman's blood in a previous issue, and we know that Scarlet Scott gave some treatment to Bruce Wayne. So if Scarlet Scott and Asima if they are related in some way,
we're certainly supposed to think that they're one and the same, because Bruce even says that he smelled, or Batman says he smelled her perfume. Yeah. And it's a perfume they don't make anymore. And it's the perfume that Scarlet Scott wear. I mean, what a coincidence that would be. Yeah. So we're certainly supposed to think that they're one and the same, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But this is just fantastic. I can't wait to see where it goes. And then we also had the news come out of, and even the main cover is just gorgeous from Mikel Janin. We also had some news coming out of Comics Pro that over in the regular Batman series, it's really strange. Like, first they said, okay, we're going to do six, like Zdarsky's run's going to end. We're going to do 6 issues of Hush too. Because, Jim Lee can't draw on a monthly basis anymore because it takes too long. And then somebody else is going to come in and do a few issues. And then we're going to, when the time's right, we'll come back and do the last 6 issues of Hush too. Well, that's kind of gone out the window. So we'll get first 6 issues of Hush 2 will be in the regular Batman series, but the last 6 issues are going to be on their own as a standalone. I guess it could work based on the story, but I kind of just put it all in the book. But maybe they can't because they know what the new writer, and he's got a plan and whatever, and they don't want to disrupt. Because the new writer of Batman is going to be Matt Fraction, and Jorge Jimenez is going to draw it. And we know there's a new costume coming out that has all these interesting details. We saw Jorge Jimenez's concept drawings for that. And we know there's a new Batmobile coming as well. And Tom Taylor's already said that the new costume and the new Batmobile will be showing up in the pages of Detective Comics as well. So good time to be a Batman fan, I guess. But at the same time, it's like, man, you guys took Zdarsky off the book to do this Hush 2 because you wanted it in the regular Batman book. Like, you didn't want it to be on its own standalone series. You wanted it to be in the regular Batman book, just like Hush, the first Hush storyline was. And now it's only going to be in for half, and then it's not either do it or don't do it. But why are you half-assing it? That doesn't. Anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm nitpicking, but I just say that to say, even though it's a Summer of Superman, plenty of new Batman stuff coming from DC as well. All right, excuse me. All right, up next we have Green Arrow number 21, written by Chris Condon, art by Montos, colors by Adrian Lucas, letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. I mean, I don't know what other way I can sing the praises of this book. This is exactly the kind of stories you should be telling with Green Arrow. Forget the superhero angles. Forget the cosmic stuff. Forget the time travel or traveling to different dimensions. Tell street-level stories. If you want to introduce mysteries, in them, that's fine too. If you want them to be sort of, morally ambiguous, where you explore the idea of, is it okay to take justice into your own hands? Because we definitely, that appears to be a lot of what's happening with these different people that lived in the town of Freshwater, which was contaminated by a corporation poisoning the groundwater. And a lot of these people got cancer. Kids were born with birth defects and what have you. And it seems like they band together, and they all were the freshwater killer in a way, like, because they captured one, and then there's still a freshwater killer out there doing killings. Like, this is street level. This is emotional. This is visceral. This feels real. It feels authentic. And I am completely blown away by the level of kind of emotion and gravitas that Chris Condon is bringing to the story. And that is equally matched with the level of detail and art and emotion and dynamic action that Montos is bringing as well. Like, I thought Montos did a fantastic job in John Stewart War Journal. And I thought, yeah, he's well suited for cosmic stories. After seeing this, I don't want to see Montos draw anything but like street level, crime noir, Renee Montoya question, Daredevil, Green Arrow. I'd love to see him. You know what I would love? Like, we've talked before, I think it was during our Christmas chat, we talked about what characters we'd like to see get a series, and who would we want on it. You know what I'd love to see it, and even if it has to go flashback and be set in the past. Longtime listeners of the podcast will know that the Adrian Chase version of Vigilante is one of my favorite characters of all time. Marv Wolfman wrote most of that. Man, Chris Condon writing Adrian Chase Vigilante and Montos on art for that series.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be a dream come true. Anyway, I absolutely love this. It's definitely in my top 5. What about you? Where does it line up?
Yeah, it wasn't in my top 5, but it was. It's really good, and this is exact. You're right. This is just classic, pure Green Arrow, and the just the tragedy of it. The first 5 pages are. At first, I thought, why are we? The first 5 pages are all about this town hall where the people of Freshwater are complaining about all the toxic chemicals in the water, and I thought, why are we wasting pages on this? But it becomes clear by the end of the issue that it reinforces this idea that this freshwater killer is the entire town of Freshwater. It's the entire town, and they're so tired of being forgotten about, and and the idea that one of the members is Ted Sparrow, I think his name is, attacks Oliver Queen. He was the one that attacked him at the end of the last issue, and he confronts him, and he tells him that, we're doing this to get noticed. If we know that if we just do this ourselves, we're not going to get noticed, but if we dress up and if they think that we're a supervillain or something, if we wear costumes just like heroes and villains, we get more attention, we get noticed, we're going to be heard. For once, our voices are going to be heard. And talk about social justice in the purest sense of the word. That's what this is. These are people that want social justice, and it is, in my view, impossible not to have great amount of sympathy with these people who you just yes, they're doing wrong, but I for one, it's amazing. Last issue ruffled some feathers with some reviewers because they didn't like the idea that, oh God forbid, they had a hard time grasping the concept of having sympathy for a killer. I have no problem at all. To me, it does matter who you kill. If you kill a scumbag, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And maybe not maybe, some people deserve to be killed. And I have no problem with that. I didn't lose sleep when I didn't lose sleep you have that shooting in the U.S. I mean, hey man, what's that old expression? F around, you find out. It happens. This is what social justice is. Now, you can vehemently disagree with what I just said, but that is something that's at the heart of Green Arrow. Social justice. It's wrong with this town, what the people of this town are doing. But what happened to them, what they're doing in return, is pales in comparison to the pertinent pain and suffering inflicted upon them. 2 wrongs don't make a right. But it sure as hell makes a good story, and this is done so well. Chris Condon understands the concept in its purest form for Green Arrow, and this was a really good story, good issue.
really interesting that we did. I think we have Detective Comics and Black Canary are the only two I think that are both and are in the same top five. That's interesting. Oh, a
Yeah,
little Batman. You didn't make your top five either. That's interesting.
right.
Usually we have more overlap than that. All right, last book we'll talk about. Probably won't talk about it too long because it's not in either of our top five. But it's Absolute Wonder Woman #5. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Hayden Sherman on art. Jordan Belair on colors. Becca Carey on letters. It's fun. I love how Diana transforms herself into Medusa and turns the tetracide into stone. That's interesting. I love that it's Steve Trevor that is the one that reaches her, because once she's transformed into Medusa, she's like really Medusa. She doesn't have any sense of self of who she used to be before. So that's interesting as well. I love the scene with the different sort of supporting characters of Etta Candy and Steve Trevor and Barbara Minerva, sort of setting almost the supporting cast and getting to see how it looks like they'll be important going forward. So I loved that, but I also loved how the resolution of the story, like you think, okay, she's defeated the Tetracide, and there's this thought, well, maybe she's going to go back to uh, hell and what have you, and she's like, no, there's a lot of work to be done, and then all of a sudden, reaching up out of the ground, this glowing hand just grabs her and yanks her down. So it's like nonstop action, as the series has been throughout, but it's not action that's at such a breakneck pace that there's not time for character work and connection between characters. So this definitely is starting to feel like a much different book than the main universe Wonder Woman. But at the same time, I can see why people would say, well, she's not so different. Um, but I mean, we could say the same thing about Superman. Um, so yeah, I thought this issue was okay. It doesn't make my top five just based on the strength of the week, but yeah, this book is starting to gain momentum, I think. So, anything to add, Rocky?
I could do a whole 30-minute rant on this comic, um, because but I'm gonna but first I will absolutely maintain I see why it's popular, and I cannot accuse this of not being Wonder Woman, because Kelly Thompson can do whatever she wants with Absolute Wonder Woman, and boy does she do that. Uh, uh, I I'm not going to repeat my earlier criticisms, at least maybe a little bit. I will say that it's interesting that she's got this green rope that I don't know how to say it. Do you know she calls it? It's for some reason Kelly Thompson told the letterer to use letters that are in Greek. I
I
don't know. It's OUE. It's not even an OUE. It's an O with a line in the middle. I don't know what that means. There's a U. There's a E, but it's not really an E. Do you know what it means? Do you know how to say
I
it?
don't know how to pronounce. I have no idea how to pronounce that
Yeah,
either.
no, but I don't know if it's Oima. But anyways, I'll be honest, that just pissed me off reading that. I thought, why be pretentious? You can't come up with a name. You have the Nemesis rope, so you're going to come up with a dumb name like that no one can pronounce. And upon reading it, I can't even Google it because my letters on my keyboard don't reflect that. Just really dumb. Also, I don't understand why Diana thought it was cruel. This new magic rope that she has, and I'm going to call it a magic rope because if you're going to give it a stupid name, I'm going to call it what I want. It's a magic green rope. This new magic green rope is something that they throw around. Whatever she wraps it around, apparently later on, Diana can become a clone of whatever she wraps this rope around. What doesn't make sense is that she wrapped it around a harpy, but then later turns into Medusa. In the past, she wraps this. There's a past scene in past where she takes this rope, wraps it around a harpy, and for some reason she thought it was cruel. I don't know why she thought it was cruel. She didn't do anything. She wrapped it around the harpy. And Kelly Thompson tries to draw some connection between cruelty and what her mother says and what she's saying. And I could get the point, but it wasn't established well by the story itself. She turns into Medusa. We never saw a scene where she wrapped the green rope around the actual Medusa. So I guess we're just to assume that happened. When she became Medusa, I just really thought this was uninspired and unoriginal. How many times have we seen Medusa? This is right out of, isn't this right out of Jason and the Argonauts? Or isn't that just how, Perseus defeated the Garkon creature in Greek myth. It's just unoriginal, uninspired. I was disappointed with this. I remain uninspired by the lack of character. I think there's a lack of character work in terms of originality here. Same old Steve Trevor, same old Barbara Minerva. Slight differences on Ada Candy. I remain unimpressed by this. But is it okay? Is it good? Is it different? The window dressing, yes. Art's okay, but overall, it didn't. Honestly, this was probably near the bottom of my list for me, and it just continues to disappoint me. So
You
I'm
need to
definitely
stop
an
reading.
outcast.
You need to stop reading this book. I never would tell somebody don't read. You need to stop reading this book. You really do, because it is nowhere near as bad as you're making it out to be. I,
Oh my
I,
God!
you need to. I think what you really need to do is you need to stop reading Wonder Woman comics completely, and you need to write your own Wonder Woman
I need to
stories
reel
because
it in.
that's the only way you're going to be happy with Wonder Woman stories because
Maybe
you
it
never liked
just.
the one. I can't remember the last time you. I think
I know.
the Wonder Woman comic um, where Wonder Woman fights in the plaza in Washington D.C. That's like
Yeah,
the only time you've ever
I
read a
enjoyed that.
Wonder
Yeah,
Woman comic
yeah.
that you liked.
I like the Cancer
Every other
Kid comic
Wonder
too.
Woman comic you've ever read, you rant. You need to stop
Yeah.
reading Wonder Woman comics because and it's so funny too because it's like if you dislike every single one of something that you read about a particular character, maybe that character's just not for you. But you talk all the time about how you're such a huge Wonder Woman fan. It's like you're
Well,
a fan of the Wonder Woman that exists in your head, but she doesn't exist in any actual comics.
like I said, I can't. I've reviewed more Wonder Woman comics than any other comic I have on my site, and there's lots of Wonder Woman comics that I've loved. Like I said, this might get better. It might have some improvements here, but there's just. I mean, some of this stuff I'm just dropping. I think I'm dropping. I'm just mentioning things that just seem out of just
But
awry for me.
you nitpick Wonder Woman, I think, in a way that you don't nitpick other books. Like you say we
Well,
never saw
that might be
her,
fair. Yeah, that's a
we
fair
never
comment.
like she wraps the rope around a harpy. Like first of all, who whatever, it's a magic rope. Who cares if she used a bunch of symbols or whatever? Like I don't really know how to pronounce it. Whatever. It's not nothing to get upset over. But my whole take on her, her mother gifted her the rope of transformation, transmorgification, or whatever you want to call it. And my take was that she went around to different places in hell and she trained and she learned how to use that rope. That's why it was like, showing her against a harpy and, talking to the goddess and, but like she went on a journey. She went on a walkabout with this rope and learned, the way it works and how to transform and then talk to the goddess and the goddess explained because Wonder Woman didn't feel worthy and felt like, hey, my mother doesn't understand me. Why would she give me this rope of transformation? It's not,
Yeah.
what I am. It's not, Amazonian or whatever. And the goddess is telling her, no, your mother loves you so much. And what your mother knows most and is best at, she's best at transformation. She's best at transmorgification. And she poured herself and her ability and her powers and her everything that she can do, her magic, she poured it into this rope. She put so much of her own self into this magical rope because she loves you. And then she gave you that rope. And you will be able to use that rope in battles. And, you can learn how to transform
Yeah,
yourself and do all these
I
things.
get it.
And
I
she's
read the
doing it.
story. I read the story. I
Yeah.
understand that. I'm just
Yeah. So
I get it.
I
I just it
but
just
but then you said, well, how could she turn herself into Medusa? She went and trained with this rope. So
well
maybe we just haven't seen that story yet where she used it on
yeah.
Medusa.
I guess it's just it's just those are that's just the stuff that I'd maybe like to see a little bit more here. It just I don't
Well,
know.
you don't know what
It's
we're going to
losing
get
it.
in future issues. That's my
Yeah.
point. Like we can't get everything in every single issue. Then what's the point of reading it? Like
Yeah.
I think with Wonder Woman, it's like I feel like you more so than any other character, you're like if it's not exactly perfect and like because what if it was okay? Let's see Wonder Woman given to Cersei, and the first issue covers like the first week that Cersei has that little baby, and the second issue covers the second week, and the third issue covers the third week. Like That's boring. That's boring to see everything. Like, that's just not the way that it's done. We know that none of these stories are told linearly anymore. But it's so I don't know. I just wonder. Like, I'm still waiting for us to get in like an issue or run of Wonder Woman that clicks, so I can understand what it is you're looking for in the Wonder Woman stories. Because we've covered a shitload of Wonder Woman books with all sorts of different stories and aesthetics and whatever, and you haven't liked any. You haven't liked any of them. You didn't like the Mariko Tamaki run, and I get it. It started off with like a couple great issues, and then it kind of lost its
Well,
way.
I like
The
aspects.
Clune Rad run, sort of the same thing. I love the Tom King run. You have liked one issue of it. You didn't care for the Stephanie Phillips issue or series of Wonder Woman. Um,
Yeah.
and now this I feel is very different than any of those previous runs that I mentioned. But you don't like, you're not liking this one either. Remind me, was it the Brian Azzarello New 52 run with Cliff Chang that you really liked?
Uh, well, I like that. I like the Greg Rucka run too. I like Greg Rucka, and I even like George Perez.
I haven't read the Greg Rucka run, but it's
Yeah.
interesting because
He's had two runs at it, but yeah.
I did read the New 52 Brian Azzarello Cliff Chang run, and as much as I'm a fan of Brian Azzarello, I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman when it leans into gods and that's just
Yeah.
not interesting to me. And that leaned into that stuff heavily, and so I didn't like that. That's one of my least favorite eras of Wonder Woman, because I just don't get into the whole mythology stuff. So anyway, we've talked about a book that's not in either our top five for way too long. So we'll move on. Be sure everybody like, comment, subscribe. As I said, leave comments below. Let us know what you're thinking of Absolute Wonder Woman specifically. I want to know if people are liking it, disliking it. I mean, it's selling well, but speculators and what have you, who knows how much people are actually reading and enjoying it. We'll do an unscientific poll by having everybody give us their thoughts in the comments. Anyway, in terms of the collections that are out this week, we've got a Batman Superman World's Finest Volume 5 Secret Origin hardcover, which collects Batman Superman World's Finest 18 through 19, as well as 25, and the 2024 annual. That's the Mark Waid run. Most of that art is by Travis Moore. We also have Green Lantern Volume 2, Love and War trade paperback. This is collecting the second arc of Jeremy Adams' run. So 7 through 12 are the issues that are collected there. Also, the second volume of Titans, The Darkwing Queen. This is collecting the last of the Tom Taylor run, issues 8 through 15. Mostly Lucas Meyer on art there. Also, Hellblazer, John Constantine, Dead in America is getting a hardcover, collecting the entire series, 1 through 11. Simon Spurrier writing that. Aaron Campbell on art. Great series. We really loved it. The Flash by Grant Morrison and Mark Miller is getting a deluxe edition hardcover. This is collecting a bunch of stuff from the 90s. So if you are so inclined and you like that run, or if you've never read it and want to check it out, you can. The Penguin Volume 2, appropriate with the Penguin TV show winning all kinds of awards right now. This collects the second half of the Tom King series with art by Rafael de la Torre. So issues 8 through 12 of that series. We also have Justice League International, Book 1, Born Again. This is collecting the Bwahaha era of Justice League International. So basically the first 18 pages, as well as a couple annuals and a tie-in that happened in Suicide Squad issue number 13. So you've got Kevin Maguire and Keith Giffen handling art duties, and then Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis handling the writing. And then the aforementioned Power Girl, Volume 2, More Than a Crush, collecting issues 8 through 13 of Leigh Williams' Power Girl run. And then finally, Absolute Transmetropolitan, written by Warren Ellis, Derek Robertson on pencils, kind of the series that made Derek Robertson. This is collecting issues 40 through 60, and it's Absolute, so it's that larger size for $125, 544 pages. All right, that does it for collections. Rocky already ruined the suspense. We know what he's picking for book of the week. For me, it was actually a pretty easy choice. Also, I really love Green Lantern. Green Lantern was number 2 for me, and Black Canary was number 3. That was Rocky's book of the week. So that leaves Detective Comics for me as my pick of the week.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, it's just such a huge chunk of story, a lot of forward momentum. Throughout this run, Tom Taylor has introduced something that's so interesting that harkens back to the earliest days of Batman, harkens back to Joe Chill, even before Bruce Wayne was Batman. And it's not a situation where it feels like it's shoehorned in or it's continuity that doesn't make retroactive continuity, a retcon as it's called, that doesn't make sense. Like we go back and I think back to the Detective Comics run of Rom V, right, and how there was a Batman character in Gotham City way back in the 1880s. But why has that never been mentioned before? It seems like when Batman first showed up on the scene, when Bruce Wayne donned the costume and became Batman, that people would have referenced that. Oh, is he inspired by the Batman that was around in the 1880s? Like that would have been a thing. And that's why that continuity and going back and inserting that into the past of Gotham City just didn't work for me because it doesn't make sense. Kind of the same thing as, much as I love Scott Snyder, just a great guy, super talented writer. The Court of Owls to me doesn't necessarily make sense because he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective. And when the Court of Owls makes an appearance, we're supposed to, we're told and we're supposed to believe and buy into the fact that the Court of Owls has been there for hundreds of years and Batman never knew about them. What? Let's go back to Brian Michael Bendis and the Invisible Mafia in Action Comics, right? You're telling me that there's criminals in Metropolis that are operating under the nose of Superman, and they call themselves the Invisible Mafia because they meet inside lead, basically big lead chambers where Superman can't see or hear them. I mean, come on! It reminded me of that John Byrne story, Superman where Joker goes to Metropolis and he kidnaps a bunch of Superman supporting characters and puts them in lead coffins, and one of them has a bomb. And then he's like, "Hey, Superman, you don't know which one." And Superman, because the assumption being that he can't see lead, not that he can't see through lead, and he goes and rescues them all because he just looks around the city and wherever he can't see, like those lead coffins stand out like a sore thumb. It's the same thing. If you're getting a bunch of criminals and you're meeting in these lead chambers, those chambers are going to stand out like a sore thumb. There's no way some criminal organization operates under Superman's nose for years in Metropolis. That just doesn't work. And yet Bendis did it, and it was awful. It didn't work. So I say all that to say what Tom Taylor is doing in Detective, it works. It doesn't contradict anything that has come before. It doesn't, stretch our, believability where we're like, no, that can't be the case. There's no way Joe Chill could have been a patient of Thomas Wayne. No, it fits in perfectly. Now, that's not to say that he might not still do something where it doesn't fit, and we're like, kind of tilting our heads and going, well, yeah, I don't know that makes sense. But so far, everything he's done makes perfect sense. And the pacing's been great. The Mikel Janin art has been fantastic. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to pick the tech. Like as soon as I read it, I was like, "Oh my god, so good, so good." So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate everybody joining us as always. Don't forget, head over to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom! On YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe once you're there. All of the Comic Source content comes out on the Comic Source channel. Just do a search for the Comic Source on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Ring those notification bells so you know when interviews are coming up, and our DC Spotlight comes out every week on Rocky's channel, Independent Spotlight every week on the Comic Source channel. Also, don't forget, if you want to listen audio only, Comic Source is available on all podcast platforms and apps. Just do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. You got thousands of past episodes you can go and check out. So that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate you all joining us as always. We'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.